Hey everyone, it's Allie, and it's a new day, which means we have a new news post to look through regarding some of the things that are coming in Season 2. Well, today is a topic that literally made me lose my voice on my stream yesterday, and is something that to me is very near and dear, given that, well, the topic of today's news post, the massive Sentinel rework that's coming in Season 2, which I've been personally waiting for a long time, and it's personally my favorite class, is finally here. Not only that, but we got some insight into the new Heartseeker skill for the marksman, and honestly, that skill looks so cool that it's probably going to be the build I'm going to end up playing as my second or third build of the season because, well, it kind of does everything I look for in a skill. So that said, let's get into it. Let's discuss some of the major points and, well, hopefully get you excited for the full patch notes that are going to come on April 11th and the full release of Season 2 on April 17th. First, let's go over Heartseeker. I think a lot of people are going to be pretty interested in this, and it's going to be something that really looks as a potentially really viable endgame skill all by itself. That's going to be pretty damn fun. Heartseeker, at its core, is meant to be a single target skill. The main kicker here is that when you attack an enemy with it, it'll only do damage to that enemy, and it will recurve, which means it will hit it multiple times. Every time it recurves, the percent chance is multiplied by 0.8, meaning that eventually it'll fail to recurve and it'll just fizzle away. If you were to get a lot of recurve chance and go over 100%, that means you get quite a lot of guaranteed recurves, allowing you to basically scale the amount of hits that this does, meaning it's probably going to be pretty good for things like ignites or poison or bleeds, given the nature of how many hits it's going to do. The cool thing about this is that they're really playing around this recurve chance in a really interesting way. Shadow Weaver's Grasp makes it so your minimum recurve chance is 66%. I'm a really big fan of this because this is basically Wind Fury from World of Warcraft, and it's honestly one of the cooler mechanics that a game has. And while sure, you're never going to get insane outcomes, you might maybe every once in a while walk up to a rare, press a single Heartseeker, and just watch it die from like 50 recurves all at once, which is just really cool and fun gameplay. Not only that, Nimble Threads is going to allow you to stack dexterity to give you a lot of recurve chance, making it more consistent. And if you were to pair it with something like Ravager's Darts, which then gives you added throwing damage for stacking dexterity, you get a really cute combo setup where your Heartseeker is going to be automatically casted, while at the same time giving you a lot of throwing damage that allows you to use something like Shuriken as your main skill, while the Heartseeker kind of just does its thing passively in the background. Something like this would then also allow you to maybe run straight through, which would then cause you to automatically attack with puncture at every nearby enemy for each recurve that you have left when an enemy dies from a Heartseeker, which given that you would have a lot from the deck stacking, seems like a pretty fun setup. Point is, Heartseeker is looking pretty cool and pretty interesting, and I can see a lot of people being big fans of playing the skill as a main skill. With that said, let's discuss the thing that I've been personally waiting for a very long time to come out, the Sentinel rework. I am so excited about this, and as I mentioned, I literally lost my voice on stream over the sheer excitement I was feeling while reading the patch notes. The TLDR is that the Sentinel rework is a banger. My god, our Void Knight and Paladin looking really good on paper, and if this is just the tip of the iceberg, I'm pretty sure the rest of the changes are complete bangers, and well, this basically means we're going to have a lot more viable skills. If you want to talk about the skill reworks that they're doing, on top of the passive tree changes on their own, they are turning Multi-Strike, Shield Throw, Javelin, Vengeance, and Smelter's Wrath all into viable skills where they either fixed clunkiness issues with the skills or added in a new quality of life to make them potentially shine as the main skills that you build your build around. In the case of Multi-Strike, for example, they added in Blade Storm, which allows your multi-strikes to now finally hit the same target, meaning, well, you have some pretty cracked single target DPS, they're most likely going to see some multi-strike builds running around. In the case of Shield Throw, they basically gave you 5 extra passive points for free, given that all of the points at the bottom of the Shield Throw tree that revolve around making it be able to be spammable are just gone, and well, Shield Throw just has no cooldown anymore, with the mana of it being reduced to compensate for the mana reduction that those points would have given you. They are basically just going through and making these skills actually usable, which to me is really exciting, especially about Shield Throw, given I put literal tens of hours into attempting to theorycraft Shield Throw into viable builds, and I unfortunately was just never able to. On top of this, we honestly have one of the single biggest reworks, which is amazing in what they managed to accomplish with, as they have managed to turn a skill that was kind of hated by the whole community, but kind of mandatory in every single Sentinel build, into something that even I want to press. Steve was in my chat when we were looking through these changes, and I told Steve directly that me, Allie, the person who actively does everything she can to make every build a one-button build, unironically wants to actually press Volatile Reversal and include it in builds because, well, it's just that much better now. They're basically turning Volatile Reversal into a completely new skill where a lot of its power is just added to Sentinel Tree in general, so Volatile Reversal can just be its own thing. You can use it as a mobility skill where they're completely removing the clunky you have to go back in time, where it's now a two-part skill, one that's going to move you forward, one that's going to move you backwards, which you just completely can't ignore. And if you want to just turn it into full-on mobility skill and just use it for mobility, Future Focus now just turns it into 2 blinks, meaning Sentinels now have an amazing mobility skill, which they never really had before. Sure, we technically had Healing Hands, which kind of filled in that gap where Lunge just felt really bad given you couldn't target it, but well, with this, we now have an actual blink on a somewhat low cooldown that doesn't feel slow like Healing Hands does, or doesn't have some of the issues that, well, Healing Hands did. On top of that, if you want to actually make it become a damage skill instead, and if you want your Volatile Reversal to potentially be your whole damage output, Terminal Void and Increpid Void, which shoot auto-aiming Void Bolts whenever you Volatile Reversal forwards and backwards, basically allow you to exactly do that. If you then take Returning Corruption, the Void Bolts return to you, and they can shotgun the same enemy, meaning given that Volatile Reversal has some pretty good added spell damage scaling off of your vitality, should give you some pretty good damage. You can also pair this up with nodes that are going to allow you to trigger Abyssal Echoes, meaning that yeah, Volatile Reversal as a damage skill honestly has some feet to stand on. It's also going to keep its utility nodes through things such as Warp Time and Phase Reality, so we still get to use Volatile Reversal either as a travel skill if you want to, as a utility skill if you want to, or as a whole damage skill if you prefer, which, in my opinion, they did a really good job reworking this. Finally, some other things to quickly mention. Not only that, but the other skill they showed off was Symbols of Hope, where Symbols of Hope now just no longer is something you have to constantly press, removing a lot of clunkiness out of the skill. And it's just a passive that happens in the background where you can activate it for a big boost of defenses. Honestly, it's a great change because, as they said themselves in the paragraphs discussing Symbols of Hope, it was just a button that felt really bad and really tedious to play, and it just wasn't a feels good thing. And well, they went and reworked it into a actual feels good thing that people should be excited to press and not something that was kind of unfun to interact with. I'm pretty excited about the skill changes. There's a lot more in here, and I will link everything in the description below if you'd like to look through it yourself, because, well, everything is a banger, and this would be a 20-minute video if we went through all of them, because, well, there's just a lot of really good to say about all of them. The final things I want to quickly cover are some of the passive point changes that are coming. We haven't been given the full picture of what exactly is changing with the passive points, but there's 2 very important passives I want to point out in the Void Knight tree that basically aim to fix the issues that mastery had. First, we have Abyssal Fluctuation, which gives you 50% of your elemental damage taken as void, as well as some generic less void damage taken, which is a defensive layer, which Void Knight absolutely needed. And this makes me hope that there's going to be some other defensive options available in the tree, potentially allowing Void Knight to, well, become really tanky. You can pair this up really nicely with a bunch of other damage taken as void from other sources, and, well, since this gives you a less void damage taken buff, that means any sort of damage it converts just basically has a portion of it nullified. The other really exciting note here that gives me a lot of hope for Void Knight builds potentially being absolutely insane next season is specifically Rock Grip, which allows you to scale your Time Rot damage off of either slow chance, Time Rot chance, or attack or cast speed, which, given that Time Rot has been an ailment that's been kind of largely ignored and not very good, it's pretty exciting to see it now, well, have a way to stand on its own 2 feet where it's probably going to do some really good damage, and Time Rot's probably going to be extremely meta, which, yeah, that's just fun. It's great. I like it, and it's very thematic to Void Knight. Overall, pretty much everything that's changing for Sentinel just looks like an absolute banger. There's literally no downside here, at least from what we've seen so far, and this makes me unbelievably excited for the patch notes because I want to see everything that's coming, as I'm looking to personally play a Void Knight Auto Bomber in Season 2 as my starter, and I can't wait to make a build guide on it, and I can't wait to discuss it more after the patches come out, and this just makes me so much more giddy to see all the new tools that my build is going to get in Season 2. If you'd like to discuss any of this further, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to discuss any of this with you at any point, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, or come by my Twitch and ask them there, where I'll be more than happy to answer them for you at any time, or if you simply just want to come by and come and hang out with other kitties and be a part of my community, I'd be more than happy to see you there as well. With that said, I'm super excited for the patch on the 11th. Tomorrow we have another banger news supposed to go over, and, well, I hope to see you there for some more exciting Last Epoch news. With all that said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video.